Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Module 0 Mentor webinar. You should see some audio instructions in front of you on your screen. You should be automatically connected to the audio through your computer, but if you're having some difficulties, we're flashing that number up there that you can call to participate on the teleconference line. And the call is going to be muted, so to ask a question, you do have to use the Q&A menu on your screen in live meeting. So with that, we'll get started. This presentation is going to offer mentors an overview of what the CPA Module 0 is. My name's Laura Gregorick, and I'm CASB's Director of CA Training Office Engagement, and I'll be leading you through the material today. We also have Sukaina Rashid, who's CASB's Director of Learning Center Operations, and Kelsey James, who's the Team Lead of Module Services. And they'll join us at the end of the session to answer your questions. So by the end of our time together, you should have a pretty good understanding of what Module 0 is. You'll also understand what's expected of candidates as they make their way through Module 0. You'll understand what is expected of mentors with respect to supporting candidates through Module 0. And you'll also know how to register to obtain access to Module 0. So we do have a full hour together today, but we only have about 15 minutes of formal material to cover. So we will have plenty of time to address your questions, and if you don't have many, we will definitely finish early. You can submit your questions throughout the session by using the Q&A menu in live meeting, and that should appear at the top of your screen. And as I mentioned earlier, Sukaina Rashid and Kelsey James will be on hand to answer your questions, and we'll do that at the end of the session. And I do want to highlight that you can also download a copy of today's presentation, and you can do so by clicking on the handouts icon. It's in the top right-hand section of your screen, and it's the icon that looks like 3 sheets of paper. So we'll start by discussing what exactly Module 0 is. Before we cover what Module 0 is, it's a pretty good idea to highlight some of what the prerequisites for entry into the CPA professional education program are. So to be admitted, candidates would need an undergraduate degree, and they'd also have to have some specific subject area coverage that is defined in the CPA competency map. And you can find the CPA competency map on the unification website, and that's at cpacanada.ca. So candidates who have recently enrolled in the CPA program would have completed CASB prerequisite courses, and those do differ from the specific subject area coverage that is required for entry into the CPA program. So essentially, the CPA entry requirements cover some additional competencies that are not covered by the CASB prerequisite courses. So Module 0 has been designed to help CPA program entrants who would have met CASB prerequisite course requirements fill those knowledge gaps before starting core Module 1. So Module 0 is free, but your students would have to register as CPA candidates in order to access the material. And it's flexible since candidates have to decide which topics they're going to need to complete, and they also complete them at their own pace. Module 0 content is offered online through Desire to Learn, so candidates can access the material at their convenience. And registered candidates also have access to a subject matter expert if they have any questions about the material. And Module 0 is self-assessed. So that means that as candidates are completing a topic area, they answer review questions to assess their comprehension of the material. So there are no marked assignments or any examinations. Now with respect to timing, the initial offering of Module 0 runs through the coming summer. So candidates will have access to Module 0 materials beginning today, that's May 13th, all the way through August 30th of this year. And then there will be subsequent offerings of Module 0, and their timing is going to coincide with future offerings of CPA Core Module 1. So we can't say for sure how many times Module 0 will be offered, but we can definitely commit to continuing to offer it until CPA prerequisite courses have been established at post-secondary institutions. So Module 0 covers topics in 4 different competency areas. We have financial accounting, taxation, management accounting, and strategy and governance. So we'll take a closer look at each of these topics, each of these competency areas and the topics contained in them. And we'll also provide an overview of the estimated time that it would complete a candidate to complete each topic. So Module 0 covers 4 topics in the financial accounting competency area. So with respect to business combination, the topics covered would include investments subject to significant influence, and that would take candidates about 3 to 4 hours to complete. We also have consolidation and acquisition, and that would take about 6 to 8 hours to complete. Consolidation subsequent to acquisition, which would also take about 6 to 8 hours. And then joint ventures, and that would take about 3 to 4 hours to complete. In the next area, it's financial instruments, and there would only be 2 topics in this area. So those are classification and measurement of financial assets, liabilities, and equity instruments, and that would take about 3 to 4 hours. And then hedging, which is about 4 to 5 hours to complete. And then the financial accounting for not-for-profit organizations would take about 18 to 20 hours to complete, so it's a little bit more substantial. And then finally, the foreign currency translation material should take about 5 to 6 hours. So that covers financial accounting. And this topic list can be found on the CASB website in the CPA section at casb.com. So then we have the taxation competency area, and that covers 2 groups of topics. So the first is capital cost allowance, and that includes replacement property rules, and that's about a 1 to 2 hour topic. Class 10.1 vehicles is another 1 hour topic, and then disposition of building and land is 1 to 2 hours, and the fair market value rules, which are a 1 hour topic. And then the second topic is components and calculation of corporate taxes payable, which would be a 7 to 11 hour topic. So next we have the management accounting competency area, which covers 4 kinds of topics. And the first is management planning and evaluation tools, and it includes enterprise resource planning, and that should take candidates about 2 to 3 hours to complete. Capacity requirements planning is also a 2 to 3 hour topic. And we have responsibility accounting, which is a 3 to 4 hour topic, activity-based management, balanced scorecard, and nonprofit and government entities, and each of those would require about 2 to 3 hours to complete. And then the costing strategies topic in the strategic cost management area should take about 5 to 6 hours to complete. And then business process reengineering, and that's in the quality control and quality improvement area, would take about 3 to 4 hours. And then finally, the pricing decisions area includes a number of topics. So we have industry structure, which is 1 to 2 hours, pricing strategies, which is 3 to 4 hours, cost plus pricing and fixed price contracts, about 1 to 2 hours, product differentiation, mix and marketing, 4 to 5 hours, and then finally transfer pricing, which is about a 3 to 4 hour topic. And then the final competency area is strategy and governance. And it covers 3 groups of topics. And so the first is the role of governance, which includes governance structure, which is about a 3 to 4 hour topic, and auditor roles, which is also a 3 to 4 hour topic. The environmental and scanning and industry analysis is the next topic group, and includes mission, vision, values, and objectives, which is a 4 to 5 hour topic, and then the environmental scan, which is about 8 to 10 hours. And then finally, we have creating, implementing, and evaluating strategy. And so that includes strategy formulation, which should take about 6 to 8 hours to complete. We have strategic implementation, also taking about 6 to 8 hours to complete. We have risk management. That's about a 5 to 6 hour topic. And then strategic evaluation, which comes in at about 3 to 4 hours. So that was a very comprehensive list of each topic covered in Module 0. And candidates would not necessarily have to complete every single topic. So we will discuss this more in the next section. So now that you have a pretty good understanding of what Module 0 is, we'll cover what's expected of candidates as they're progressing through the module. So when it comes to Module 0, candidates have to do 6 things. So the first would be to apply to the CPA Professional Education Program, or PEP, and we began accepting applications in mid-February. So then the second step would be for candidates to register for Module 0. And every candidate who submits a CPA program application would receive information about Module 0, as well as a link to its registration site. And then as part of the registration process, the third step would be for candidates to assess which Module 0 topic areas they think that they will need to complete. So all registered candidates gained access to Module 0 online materials today. And so the fourth step would be for candidates to make their way through the materials at their own pace, and that would be over the course of the summer for each topic that they identified as required. And then each topic also has some review questions at the end that would help candidates to assess their comprehension of the subject matter covered, and completing these questions would be the fifth step. And then finally, it's the sixth and final step, would be to have each candidate confirm by August 30th that they have completed the topics that they initially identified as required. So we'll start with talking a little bit more about registering for Module 0 and assessing which topics are required. So this summer offering of Module 0 is intended for candidates who are going to be taking core Module 1 in the fall. So as we did mention earlier, there will be future offerings of Module 0, and at least until the CPA prerequisite courses are established at post-secondary institutions. And then at that point, there will no longer be a need for Module 0 because those courses will contain the specific subject area coverage that's required for entry into the CPA program. So as we mentioned earlier, every candidate who submits a CPA program application does receive a link to the Module 0 registration site. So once they log into the site, candidates are going to be asked to assess which topic areas they think they need to complete. And this slide shows you what the registration screen looks like. So in the last session, we summarized the various topics covered in all 4 Module 0 competency areas. And then for each of those 4 areas, candidates would select those topics that they feel they did not have exposure to in their post-secondary courses. So we would encourage candidates to compare this list of topics covered in Module 0 to the course material they've completed, and they might also want to consult their post-secondary institution if they need additional guidance. And then depending on which courses candidates have completed, they may not need to complete any of Module 0. And if this is the case, then candidates will still need to indicate so in the online registration system. And they would do that by not selecting any topics from the registration list, and instead they click on the declaration at the bottom of the page that states, I do not need to complete any Module 0 topics to upgrade my CASB prerequisites to meet the CPA requirements. So next we'll talk about completing the required topics and the review questions. Once the registration process is complete, CASB would grant candidates access to Module 0 through Desire to Learn, which is our online learning management system. So all candidates would receive access to all Module 0 topics, regardless of their initial topic selection. So this would also include any candidates who indicated that they do not need to complete any of the topics. And what this does, it allows candidates the option of completing more topics than they originally selected in case they discover that maybe their knowledge base isn't as strong as they thought. So Module 0 topics are going to be completed throughout the summer, and candidates would do that at their own pace. So I haven't put any timelines around that. And then subject matter experts would be available through Desire to Learn. And there are also those review questions that we mentioned at the end of each topic, and that would allow candidates to assess their comprehension of the material. So there are no marked assignments or evaluations in Module 0. It really is intended to be self-directed, and candidates are expected to identify and complete only those topics that they believe are required, and they also work through those topics at their own pace. So finally, we'll discuss the confirmation of completion of required topics. So by August 30th, all candidates will be required to confirm that they've completed the topics that they initially registered for, and they have to confirm this in order to be eligible to participate in Core Module 1. So now that you have an idea of what's expected of candidates, we'll cover what's expected of mentors with respect to supporting candidates through Module 0. And so the short answer is really nothing. As we've already indicated, Module 0 is designed to be self-directed. So everything that students need can actually be found within the module itself. And so that would include the learning materials for all the topics, and even the ones that students did not register for. It would include the review questions for all the topics and also access to subject matter experts. So we don't anticipate that mentors will need to be heavily involved. However, as mentors, you'll likely want to support your candidates if they do seek you out for assistance. So there are two areas where we can foresee this happening. The first is when candidates are registering for Module 0, although most candidates have likely already completed the registration process. But if candidates are unsure of how to assess which topics they will need to complete, you can suggest that they compare the list of Module 0 topics to materials from their post-secondary courses. Or also, you can refer them to their post-secondary institution if that's necessary. You might also want to stress that candidates do have access to all Module 0 topics, so again, even the ones they didn't register for. So if they subsequently do realize that they have a knowledge gap in an area that they did not register for, they can still complete that topic. And then candidates might also seek you out for assistance if they encounter some technical challenges when they're completing the topics. And if they do, you can encourage them to contact the Module 0 subject matter experts through Desire to Learn. And although it's not required, your training office might also have some additional subject-specific resources that you can refer candidates to as well. So finally, we'll show you how you can register to get access to Module 0 as a mentor. So we have added the Module 0 materials to our already existing CASB mentor modules, and that just happened this afternoon. So the Module 0 mentor module would contain all the same resources that candidates have access to, except there would not be access to a subject matter expert. Obviously, that's something that only candidates would require. If you're not already a registered CASB mentor, then you will need to register to get access to the module. So mentors who are qualified CAs or CASB students who are more senior to the candidates they're mentoring can register. You can also be an HR and student contact at a training office, and you can get access that way, and you don't have to necessarily be a CA if you're one of those two official contacts. And to register, you just complete the CASB mentor registration application, and that's in the forms section of the CASB website. So again, if you're already a registered CASB mentor, you will automatically receive access to Module 0 materials. And so that concludes the formal material that we wanted to cover today. So as I mentioned at the beginning of the session, you can download a copy of the slides by clicking the handouts icon in the top right-hand section of your screen. And again, it's the one that looks like 3 sheets of paper. So at this point, we're ready to take your questions. And as a reminder, if you do have any questions, please do submit them using the Q&A function in my meeting. So how it's going to work, I'm going to read the questions out loud, and either we'll have Sukaina, who's CASB's Director of Learning Center Operations. She'll respond to general Module 0 related questions. And we also have Kelsey, who's the team lead of CASB's Module Services, and she'll respond to any questions related to registration. So I think maybe I'll start with Sukaina. Are you here?
Yes, I am. Hi, everyone.
Perfect. Thanks, Sukaina. Welcome. And Kelsey, are you also on the line?
I am too. Hi.
Great. Thanks, Kelsey. Okay, so we'll start with the first question. And this question is for Sukaina. So will candidates have access to Module 0 materials beyond August 2013?
So actually, students will not have access. The way Module 0 runs, it's always going to run prior to Core Module 1, so a few months prior to Core Module 1, and we will end the module a few weeks prior to Core Module 1. So the next offering will be sometime hopefully in the winter.
Perfect. Thanks, Sukaina. Let's see. Okay, it looks like this question is for Kelsey, and that's, can students who aren't taking CPA Core Module 1 in the fall enroll in this offering of Module 0?
Okay. Well, Module 0 was designed to be taken immediately prior to Core Module 1. So the current offering of Module 0 is intended for fall 2013 Core Module 1 candidates only. Candidates planning on taking a future offering of Core Module 1 are likely still working on completing their university courses. Therefore, it's best to wait if not taking Core Module 1 in fall 2013. As Sukaina and Laura both mentioned, there will be future offerings of Module 0 available for students not taking Core Module 1 in the fall.
Great. Okay, thank you, Kelsey. So the next question, I believe, is for Sukaina. Is there going to be a mature student route in CPA?
Those decisions have not been made as yet, so we're still waiting for CPA to get back to us on what routes are going to be available into the CPA.
Okay, great. Thank you, Sukaina. So the next question, I'm going to ask Kelsey to answer this one, and if I'm off base, Kelsey, you can always direct it to Sukaina as well. But we'll start with you. How will compliance with prerequisites be monitored?
Okay, so we're planning on using the same approach for CPA candidates as we currently do with CASB candidates. So when a candidate applies for the CPA program, they're going to send us their university transcripts, and we will do an assessment on their transcripts. Currently, what we're doing is we're assessing the transcripts based on the CASB prerequisites, as the CPA prerequisites, as Laura mentioned, haven't been established through all the universities yet. So right now for the fall offering, we're checking their transcripts for the CASB 12 prerequisites, and we're also confirming that they complete Module 0 before they're eligible to participate in Core Module 1. For the future, when we have a listing of all the prerequisites that are required from each post-secondary institution, we will be checking those against the candidates' transcripts before they are eligible to participate in the module.
Perfect. Thank you, Kelsey. So the next question, and I think this one is more appropriate for Sukaina. So it's, how does a student confirm the completion of Module 0?
I'll actually pass that to Kelsey just
okay.
It's a registration type question.
Yeah, no problem. So what's going to happen is candidates register in Module 0, how Laura showed us online, and then they receive access to Module 0 through Desire to Learn. Once they're completed the topics that they initially registered for, there's actually a confirm link within Desire to Learn where they can confirm that they've completed all the required topics.
Perfect. Thank you. So this one sounds like a registration question. So Kelsey, you're in the hot seat again. Do I need to register for Module 0, even if I pass Module 4 and do not plan on writing the UFI this year? Would CASB Modules 1 to 4 be given exemption to CPA modules? So that's a two-parter almost.
Yeah, it's a bit of a two-parter. So Right now, there is no transition plan in place for students transferring from the CASB program to the CPA program. So any students who want to become candidates in the CPA program, right now, they must start at Core Module 1. Any interested candidates also have to do Module 0, no matter how much of the CASB program they've completed. Therefore, we are encouraging students to finish the CASB program, to write the UFE in September 2014, or the makeup UFE in June 2015 if they weren't successful with previous modules.
Great, thanks, Kelsey. So the next one is, how long do you think it will take for the undergraduate programs to have the Module 0 material incorporated into their programs? And if I'm correct, I think that might be for Sukaina.
So yeah, I think it's going to take at least a couple of years, so that's how long we're anticipating running Module 0 till, so probably 2015 or so.
Okay, great. And then the next question is, will we be able to continue to CPA Module 1 if we did not have enough time to complete all the topics we identified at the beginning of Module 0? It's probably more of a registration type question, so Kelsey.
Sure, yeah. I think Sukaina would agree with me on this one. All candidates who are participating in the fall offering of Core Module 1 must be completed all the topics they registered for within Module 0. That's why we've given candidates May until August to complete the Module 0 topics. And I think I'll use this opportunity to reiterate how important it is for candidates to register for Module 0. Currently, there's only about 37% of CPA candidates that have registered in the CPA program who have also registered in Module 0. As Laura stated, access went out to Module 0 earlier today, so anyone registered does have access. However, we're still looking for a lot of students to register in Module 0. That includes any students that are transferring from the CASB program to the CPA program.
Perfect. Thank you. The next question is, it's going to be for you, Kelsey, and where can we find the link to register for Module 0? And actually, I'll dive in, because if this is mentor-related as opposed to students registering, for mentors, again, you just complete the CASB mentor registration application. And if you're already a registered CASB mentor, you will have access to those learning materials that was just added this afternoon. If your question relates to student registration, I'll hand it over to Kelsey right now.
Sure. So for any candidates, the link to Module 0 registration is actually emailed to them as soon as their application is accepted as a CPA candidate into the CPA program. So any candidate who has sent in their CPA application would have received the Module 0 registration link. And from that link, they can register in Module 0. If you have any candidates who need that information, feel free to have them contact our office.
Great. Thank you, Kelsey. The next question is for Sukaina, and it's, will there be opportunities for mentors and qualified individuals to become involved in the CPA module process as online resources, or those who will be acting as these individuals?
I'm not sure I understand the question.
Yeah, I think what they're asking, Sukaina, is will there be opportunities to be like facilitators, or the equivalent of facilitators in our CASB program in the CPA program?
If somebody's already a CASB facilitator, we'll be sending out an email pretty soon now about opportunities for the CPA program. If you're not already a facilitator, it's going to probably be later in the winter when those opportunities will become advertised.
Perfect. Thank you, Sukaina. The next one's also for you. Are there suggested sections in Module 0 that a candidate with the typical CASB prerequisites are likely to be deficient in?
So the whole Module 0 was designed to fill the gaps that are existing in the CASB prerequisites and what's needed in the CPA program. So if a student just stuck to the CASB prerequisites, they would need pretty much everything in the Module 0. But most students do take advanced financial accounting, for example, which is not a CASB prerequisite, and that is those kinds of coverage in universities what will help them avoid those topic areas in Module 0. So it really depends on the student and what they've covered in university.
Perfect. Thank you. So the next question is a bit of a longer one, but here we go. So it's if you are going to check that they have completed Module 0 before they're able to take Core Module 1, how can you ensure that they have registered for the required topics that they would have missed from their particular university classes? And then subsequent to that, it's do we have a list of each university and the courses that do and do not cover off certain topics that would be required? Like basically, how do we know that the student has done what they need to do?
Yeah.
And
I think the question exactly it was the issue that we were grappling with when we were designing Module 0 is we just cannot have that level of detail of, each student, what have they covered, what are they missing. And we designed Module 0 to be like a blanket approach, and it's adult learning, so it really depends on the students. Students need to know that they need to know this material to be successful in Core Module 1 and onward. So we really are relying on the student to make that assessment and then to complete the modules, because if they don't, they probably will have trouble in the CPA PEP program.
Perfect. Thank you. So the next one is a very similar question, and it's, if I've completed all the CASB prerequisites, then which portions of Module 0 do I need to complete? Sukaina.
Yeah, so that would be all of them, unless you've done extra courses. So if you've done an extra course in tax, an extra course in advanced financial, then that will reduce the topic areas that you need to cover in Module 0.
Perfect. So the next question is, are there any self-review questions to show that you have gained an understanding of the material? And I think that's an easy one. Sukaina.
Yeah, so each topic area has exercises, and it also has multiple choice questions. So students that are going to do the exercises and the multiple choice questions will slowly get an idea of whether they've got a full understanding of the topic area. So if they're doing a multiple choice and they're getting only like 20% of them right, then they know they still probably have to go back and revisit the material. So that tool is definitely available to students.
Perfect. Thank you. So the next question is looking a little further down the line. So it's asking, what happens if a student does not successfully pass the UFI, and the UFI is no longer offered and they've attempted it only twice? What happens in that situation? Sukaina.
So we are looking at probably bridging those students into the core module, the CPA exam, the CFE. We need to sort of decide where we would place the students. Before students are eligible to write the CFE, they're supposed to do capstone module 1 and module 2. Module 2 is like a prep program, similar to UFI prep, but capstone 1 is like a group project type module. But it is going to probably be tested on the CFE, so we're just looking at what is the best transition point. So once we have those details confirmed, we will hopefully be posting them.
Thanks, Sukaina. The next question is very similar, but it's somebody who potentially is working their way through the CASB program and doesn't make it to the UFI at all, but is unsuccessful at any point during the modules, and what happens to them with respect to transition.
So we mapped out all our students, and we've made lots of modules available to try and reduce the number of transitions that need to be made. So by our estimates, we only have around 8 students for pretty much all of Module 3, 4, and 5 that need to be transitioned. And then for Module 1, obviously, if you fail Module 1 in May, you'll transition on to CPA for Module 1 right away. And Module 2 has 3 opportunities for each writer, so that way if they, at the third try, if they're unsuccessful, they would have to go to Core Module 1, which would have been the case anyways. So we don't really think it's a big transition plan is required, but for those students that are going to be transitioning, we will have those one-on-one conversations with them to see where they will fit into the new program.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Sukaina. So we have a question regarding registration. So this one's going to be for you, Kelsey. I'm completing my last prerequisite for CASB and have sent in my CPA application, but have not yet received an email for access to Module 0. Is it possible to have access to Module 0 and complete my last CASB prerequisite concurrently?
All right. Yes, the answer is yes, absolutely. I'm not sure why you wouldn't have received that email yet. Perhaps your application is in the mail, or maybe it's being processed through our finance department, but as soon as we receive your application in the registration area, we will send you a link to the Module 0 registration page. And the idea is that even if candidates are completing one or two of their last prerequisites over the summer, absolutely they can register for Module 0 and take the topics that they feel they require in order to start Core 1 in the fall. This way, there's more time over the summer to complete as many topics as necessary.
Great. Thanks, Kelsey. And I see one final question here. And again, people, feel free to send in questions if you still have some. We do have some more time. So this question is for Sukaina, and it's when will the CASB CPA transition plan be available?
We're just waiting for some more information from the CPA program right now just to see what the CFE will look like, things like that, which will determine the transition points for our students. So once that information is available, we'll try and make a transition plan available.
Excellent. Thank you, Sukaina. We do have another question. Okay, and so this question is for Kelsey, and it's, can a student register for Module 0 after today, still for the fall entry?
Oh, yes, absolutely. We're leaving the Module 0 registration period open as long as we're leaving the Core Module 1 registration period open. So although candidates can't actually register for Core Module 1 in the fall yet, we will leave the Module 0 registration period open until the end of the Core Module 1 registration period, which I'll give you a date, is July 22nd, 2013. The idea is that candidates can register ongoing as they submit their applications to the CPA program and Core Module 1 if they choose. We just encourage candidates to do it earlier so that they have a little bit more time to complete the topics, or go through and peruse even the topics if they didn't register for them. As Laura mentioned, they have access to all the topics. So to give them enough time to complete all of that, we're leaving it open. And as usual for the CASB modules, we will be accepting late module applications into the CPA program as well. So there's no need to worry too much if both of those are missed. We'll still try and get you in.
Great. Thanks, Kelsey. So we are having a few more questions trickle in. So this question would be, it could be either Sukaina or Kelsey. So we'll start with you, Sukaina, and you can punt it over to Kelsey if you feel that's more appropriate. So it's just to confirm, is it perfectly all right for us to register for all topics in Module 0, go through some of the content and to see if we know it, and then confirm that we've completed it if we find that we're actually competent in each of those topics?
That's absolutely right, and we would actually encourage students to do this. So as mentors, if you encourage your students to do this, I think it would be a great approach for students because they'll get a feel for what the topic covers and if they have those competencies.
Okay. So the next question is for students beginning Module 1, Core Module 1 in the fall, when would you expect them to be fully designated if they pass all the required modules? So I think we can break that down into two parts, I guess, and that the first would probably be for Sukaina, and that's kind of how long is it anticipated to take to complete the CPA PEP program. If you'll attack that one, and I can talk briefly about experience afterwards.
So honestly, I don't have enough information about the CPA program right now to tell you how long. Like, it really depends on the schedule as it comes out, and the schedule has not been published yet. So we actually don't know how long it will take right now.
Okay.
The initial material that was published did say it's a 2-year program. So
great. And from an experience perspective, I can also confirm that what's out there as well will be about, I believe it's 30 months of experience. So it really depends on how long it'll take to complete the program, and that is still being decided. Okay, so the next question is, how much is a CPA module? And I'm not sure, Kelsey, if you can address at least what we know at this point in time?
Yeah, we haven't actually nailed down the exact administrative fee schedule yet. That has yet to be finalized. Once it's finalized, we'll definitely post it for everyone. But we're looking at it will be around the same price as the CASB modules. Core Module 1 could be slightly higher as there are 2 face-to-face sessions that we're organizing rather than just one.
Perfect. Thank you. So the next question is it possible to get the contact information for our CASB contacts here on the line if we have additional follow-up questions later on? And you know what I'll do, actually, I have everybody's email address who registered for this session, and I will blast out some further contact info in case you do have questions, and we'll make sure that you get those addressed. Okay, so we have another question. It is, would Module 0 also apply to the current CMA and CGA students who are applying to the CPA program? Now, Sukaina or Elsie, either or.
I'll take this one.
Okay.
So Module 0 is designed for CASB students, so those students that already have the CASB prerequisites. So that being said, there is a lot of similarities between our prereqs and in the CMA CGA programs, but we would encourage students that are CMA CGA students to go to their institute and they can have those discussions on whether they would need to register for Module 0 or not.
Okay, great. Okay, the next question does relate to CASB and CPA transition planning, and if we do have an approximate date for when that information will be available. In other words, is it in the next few months or a couple of years from now? So it's not maybe a specific date, but more a general sense around timing. Sukaina?
Can you repeat that again there?
Yeah, so it deals with the transition plan again, and whether we understand that there isn't a specific date for when the transition plan will be available, but do we have a general sense around timing in general? So is it going to be, a few months from now, or is it going to be in a couple of years that we'll know more about a transition plan?
I think we are hopeful that we will get more details in the next few months. So hopefully, if we do, we will put out a transition plan at that point. But really, until, we have no control over the CPA work that's going on, so it really is dependent on that. So I can't really commit to a timeline.
Yeah, thank you. So the next question is probably more of a registration question for Kelsey. And we have a student who is going to be graduating in September. And understands that they have to provide proof that they've graduated in order to register or gain entry to Module 1. So how can they go about doing so? Because they're not going to have convocation before the start of September.
All right. So the requirement is that the university degree must be completed. So if you have not convocated yet, what we ask the candidate to do is send us a transcript of all the prerequisites that have been completed so we can assess that, and then have your post-secondary institution send our office a letter confirming you have completed all of the educational requirements for your degree, and we'll take that in place of convocation until you actually convocate.
Great. Thank you, Kelsey. So I will send the next question over to Sukaina, and it really deals again with transition, but it's more around the awarding of designations. So it's with so much transition in the program. What happens if the legislation is not finalized before the first group of candidates completes the program? What designation would they receive?
I honestly don't know. Like, I would assume it would be one of the legacy designations that they would be granted until the legislation passes, but we don't really have any details on that right now.
Yeah, and I can confirm that just on the experience side, that essentially it's whatever designation is in place with the professional body is the designation that they can award. And if that's still a CA at that point in time, then that's what the candidates will be given. And if the legislation has gone through by that point, then it will be a CPA. Okay. Okay, and then we have another question related to registration. And it's if someone hasn't registered for Module 1, when do they need to register by and where can they do this?
Sure. Actually, nobody would have registered for Core Module 1 yet. The registration won't be available until June 10th. So what's available right now is registration into the CPA program and also registration into Module 0. So registration for Core Module 1 will open June 10th and will be open until July 22nd.
Thank you, Kelsey. So we have another question, and it relates to the MPAC program. So for students starting the MPAC program in summer 2014 and not taking Core Module 1 this coming fall, is Module 0 still required? And if so, when is the deadline to complete Module 0? Kelsey.
I think I'm going to pass this one to Sukaina.
Sorry about that.
So I think that for students that are not taking Core Module 1, they really wouldn't be required to complete Module 0. And I think the MPAC program is probably going to try and amend their program so that they can actually provide their students with the competencies that are required. But I think it would be a good idea for that student to check with the MPAC program on what's the best approach.
Thank you, Sukaina. And then we have another question, and it relates to experience. Can the experience requirement be a combination of work experience from a designated training office as well as work experience done in industry? And I'll tackle this one. So the experience requirements are still being decided upon. So we don't have the details around that. What is available is at a higher level on cpacanada.ca. And it does mention there are two paths. So one that's at an approved training office, and then the other path, which is more of an experience verification model. So if you want information on those two paths, the best place to check is cpacanada.ca. And other than that, we do not have any additional information, and as soon as it's available, it will be updated on cpacanada.ca. So I'm not seeing any additional questions at this point. So with that, I think we'll close today's session. I will send everyone out an email at the end so that if you do have any questions that come to you after the fact, we'll make sure that you do get responses to them. So thank you for participating in today's session. If you have any further questions, again, we'll make sure you get an answer. I do want to stress that there will be a recording of this session posted to our Mentor Center, and it'll be up in about a week. So thanks again, and this concludes today's session.